Hello, everyone. Mike here. And I'm back to talk a little more about some recent comics that I've been getting into. Last time I talked about how Cassandra Cain's Batgirl series inspired me to get back into comic collecting and really modern comics in general. But that wasn't the only one that I decided to start collecting upon my decision to get back in. One of the other ones, and the first one that I actually started receiving the books from, was Power Girl. And I want to talk about this series a little bit after this quick ad for JS April, a little collab project that I'm involved in. Check it out.
Back in 1940, 8 sensational heroes united to create the world's very first superhero team, the Justice Society of America. Now, 85 years later, we're gathering podcasters and bloggers from around the globe for a month-long celebration in an event we're calling JS April. Throughout April 2025, join dozens of content creators as they each share their own unique tributes to the original and greatest superhero team, including all-star podcasters and bloggers like
Justice Society presents
the Longbox Crusade podcast,
Campus Comics Cast,
Supergirl Comic Box Commentary,
the Quarter Bin Podcast,
the Bat Pod,
the Earth 2 Podcast,
FW Team Up,
Diana Prince is the new Wonder Woman,
Fanholes Podcast,
Back to the Bins,
Coffee and Comics,
the Huntress Podcast,
*51.blogspot.com,
Justice Society Origins, a part of John Reed's Comics,
DC Specialcast,
Between the Pages blog,
The Outcasters, a Batman and the Outsiders podcast,
A World on Fire and All-Star Squadron podcast,
JLA Stories and Friends,
The Monitor Tapes,
a Crisis on Infinite Earths podcast,
Lords of Order, a DC's Dr. Fate fan podcast,
David M. Gallagher at Medium.com,
JSA in the 90s,
Justice League Legacies,
DC Secret Files podcast,
Mike's Geek World,
Pop Culture Affidavit,
the Source Material Comics podcast,
That Giffen Show,
Worst Collection Ever,
The Fantastic Four,
It All Comes Back to Superman.
And that's just some of the podcasters and bloggers who'll be joining in the celebration. Get ready for a thrilling month of beloved characters, fascinating insights, and incredible stories. Follow the action on social media with the hashtag JSApril, and visit our website for a complete list of participating podcasters, bloggers, and what they're each covering at fireandwaterpodcast.com/JSApril.
All right. Now, admittedly, there's a little more I can say about the Power Girl series because while Batgirl had literally just started, actually hadn't even started when I decided to start collecting, Power Girl was already in the middle of its run. In fact, the first issue that I got was issue 13. Admittedly, there was a negative to that. Issue 13 focuses exclusively on the character of Omen, who, admittedly, I had no idea who that was when I first started reading. Because again, I haven't really read the modern comics. So when you have an entire first issue dedicated to a character who I don't know and isn't the character that I got the book for, not really a great start. But I actually used my DC Infinite app to go back through some of the earlier issues, and I got to know the character of Omen and got a good idea of what has led us to where we're at the time I started collecting. I gotta say, the issue that focused on Streaky was hilarious. I loved it. It took me a minute to figure out what was going on, since all the speech bubbles were just jumbles because it was all being seen from Streaky's point of view, and of course, a cat doesn't understand human language. But this has been a good series so far. As of right now, I've gotten issues 13 through 16 of the Power Girl series, which has mostly focused on her battle with Ejecta. And Ejecta's a bit of a difficult character. Because on one hand, you have the idea that she was manipulated by the symbiote ship, who, the fact that, we're so far into the lifetime of Power Girl's publication, we're still dealing with the symbiote ship. But Ejecta was kind of manipulated by the symbiote ship, so there's an element of you that feels sorry for her. But at the same time, before the symbiote ship, she was already a pretty horrible person after, as a child, trying to kill someone. Yet she's still pretty bad, regardless of what the symbiote ship did to her. But, we've seen a lot of great action. Still not a big fan of the whole Paige Stetler thing. I don't know why she can't just be Karen Starr. I mean, the most recent issue, issue 16, she even talks about how her identity of Karen Starr is rich, but her identity of Paige Stetler is not. And again, I'm still working on some of the older stuff catching up to this, so I don't currently know why she bothered creating this secondary identity, why she can't just be Karen Starr. I don't know. But I've really been enjoying a lot of the action. One thing that has always been the case with Power Girl comics, and they've continued it here despite constantly having different artists, is Power Girl is very expressive. I remember I got introduced to her through the 2006 or 2009, I don't remember which, solo series she did. And the art made her so expressive. You could see her emotion on her face so well, and it's part of what drew me in to liking her character. And they did a really good job of that with this series as well. You really see her personality in her facial expressions through this series, and I am really enjoying it. But now that things are, at this point, pretty much done with Ejecta for the time being. She's not dead, and I'm sure she'll be back. But I've enjoyed this story arc, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next. But there was one other series besides Batgirl and Power Girl that I got into upon my reintroduction to modern comics. And in the next comic video, we'll take a look at that one. But that's all I've got on this one. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like, give me a subscribe. That does a lot to help me out here. And until next time.